Hey, I'm your host, TheDoctorDanko, come on in. You've been missing out, so let's begin. Pumpkin underscore crumb is your host here too. When you hear the beat, you know what to do. Why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you warn me now? Why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you warn me? Hey. Good evening and welcome to Why Did Not You Warn Me? I'm your host, Matthew, the Dr. Danko.
I'm Hillary Crumb. I don't want to do the Twitter handle.
Why?
It's not my name.
I know it's not your name.
I'm not going to say Hillary Pumpkin underscore Crumb.
Pumpkin underscore crumb. That's fine.
I'm Hillary. I'm the co-host.
Yes, we're back for another week of podcasting on a very, very long day.
We're falling asleep, so it's going to be.
It's going to be what it is. We woke up early this morning. Why?
Because...
you can tell them about that.
Because my hip is still nonsense, and I don't know what all I've gotten into on this, but...
You went through the whole... we had the whole lumpy conversation.
Oh, right. It's an ongoing muscular thing, and the latest attempt at fixing it is called dry needling, which, look it up, because it's as horrifying as it sounds. They stick skinny muscles into skinny muscles.
Exhibit A of why we're so tired.
Take two. They stick skinny needles into trigger points, which are like the most painful spots.
It's very much like acupuncture needles. For those of you who know what those look like, they're like super thin needles.
The point is, it hurts like a bitch, and I had to get up at the crack of dawn to do it.
Yeah. We
did, because Matt is my hand holder.
Well, you don't like needles in general.
Oh,
and
this
those
hurts.
Ones are different.
Like, it's not just an in and out thing. You put the needle in and wiggle it around until the muscle twitches, which is as pleasant as it sounds.
Yeah, it's super weird.
She was only able to stick it like 4 times. And she was like, I think we're done. She's like, have you had enough? And I was like, yes.
Well, and it's not just the initial, like, puncturing.
Because you can barely feel it when it goes in.
But it's the muscle moving twitching around. It's so weird. And I can only imagine, like, in my mind's eye what it feels like. Because I don't think I could do that.
Because I am not graceful about it. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
I just close my eyes and think about show tunes.
Yeah. Is that really what you're thinking of?
I try to sing Seasons of Love, but I can't focus on it because it hurts.
That's fair.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so
hi, here we are.
What are we talking about this week? Do we have even a list?
We have some things.
Okay.
A couple of things. Am I just gonna do the rundown with you?
You don't have to do the rundown. We'll just start at the top of the list.
Well, the top of the list is what pop culture did you take in this week? We have a segment, Matthew.
Yes, sorry. Why did not you watch that is my version of this segment.
Hot diggity dope. You're welcome.
And that's yours, yeah. No, I want that as a ringtone. But
oh, were you gonna debut our theme song?
Hopefully because I have to technically work on finalizing it tonight. Gotcha. I recorded, for those of you who have listened to, I think the last episode I said I was doing it, but I found some royalty-free music and I wrote lyrics for it because I wanted a theme song for our show. So I recorded those today, and I just have to put it all together, and it should be at the head of this episode. If it's not, that's a testament to how tired I am because I have to do it basically right after the show. But
he hung up a little blanket in our kitchen to block sound, and
we
hid back there and sang. He hid and sang to himself for like 30 minutes.
Yeah, unfortunately, because you're recording the audio track, the music track is just in my headphones, so you're just listening to the lyrics I'm singing with no music. Yeah, because you got to get that feeling.
Right. He was laying down some tracks.
Yeah.
In his very legit recording studio.
I hate the fact that one of our walls is all glass. So it limits our options for recording.
Large windows. We don't live in a greenhouse.
Sure.
For reference. Yeah, a fucking train went by.
Yeah, and I had to
well.
gotta fucking stop this. So hopefully it'll be at the beginning of this episode. If it's not, I apologize, but I will post, because I'm gonna have the royalty-free music I have is probably like 3 minutes long. I wrote lyrics for the whole thing, but for our theme song, it'll probably be like a 30-second clip. So I'll probably post the full version, if not the theme song at the beginning of this episode, just so people can hear it.
Just like a special thing for our fans.
Yeah, our moms.
Not
and
even
the guys
my mom.
talking about shit. But no, it's not about, how many fans we have. It's just
not about whose mom is or is not listening.
My mom is.
Hi, Mrs. Danko.
No, it's just fun.
So anyway.
Well, no, because I have more.
No.
No, just that, I'm trying to get our podcast like more official, and what the hell is that?
Ambient noise, motherfucker.
More official and like solidified, because it's kind of just we record it and I throw it up and that's it. There's really no work.
We record the podcast. He throws up and then he puts it on the
real
Facebook.
Quick. No, so we have a Facebook page. We have a YouTube page, which eventually I would like to do what the guys talking about shit do, the GTAS podcast. They do a video podcast, so that, YouTube's meant for videos.
You gonna make me get dressed for this? No, I'm kidding. I'm wearing pajamas.
Don't spoil the illusion.
I don't want anybody picturing anything.
That's fair. But no, for real, YouTube is meant for videos.
Really?
So it would behoove us.
God, tell me more.
Oh my God. You're done. This is the Matthew Danko podcast.
Don't call it that.
So that's somewhere down the line eventually when I have money to spare.
We do need a video component because his hand gestures are a show all on their own.
Yeah. I've always talked with my hands. I don't know.
We were at a bar with a bunch of his friends. I probably already told this story, but so I was just meeting these people for the first time. So I'm sitting next to him and we were holding hands and he kept letting go of me to gesticulate. And one of his friends kept looking at me and just cracking up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm less important than your storytelling.
That's not true. I can't control
Everybody
my
knows
hands.
now. It's fine.
The worst.
I know.
Anyways.
So what pop culture?
Loud. I'm not there yet. I did keep interrupting me.
I've left.
Somewhere down the road, I would like to do a video podcast version of this show.
A vodcast.
With additional videos. I've been talking to a few of my buddies that collect toys, and we want to do toy review videos and unboxing. See, this is why it would be great for video.
I wouldn't do that on video.
You would be dancing on video.
No.
You'd forget the camera was rolling.
I'm putting a ring on it, for those of you that are curious. My own interpretation.
So, toy review and unboxing videos are somewhere in the future, and I would like to collect all of this for a podcast network of sorts that will start on YouTube. The working title that I really like is The Bogus Bag, which is an obscure reference to an episode of Gilmore Girls, which you had me watch all of it. Just all
7 seasons plus a year in the life.
Yes, and it wasn't bad. I enjoyed the majority of it.
It's no better or worse than anything else we've watched.
To me, it's different. We have different tastes, but so...
It's a girl show.
Why do you gotta gender it? It's the comfort food of television. Anyone can be comforted by this show.
Okay, but you're not.
I am. Not all of it is the greatest writing ever.
No,
I really hate Logan, and this is more off point than I would like to be. The Bogus Bag is gonna be the network where we put you'll see it on YouTube, all the videos from the Guys Talking About Shit podcast, the GTAS podcast. These unboxing videos, Why Did Not You Warn Me, old episodes of the Matthew Danko podcast, don't call it that, and any future episodes of any other things. So we'll throw announcements on there. So each individual entity will have its own YouTube channel, but then this will be the hotspot that collects everything. So you can just go on there. We'll put announcements up for new shit that we're doing, things like that. It's in the works, but now that we're moving to Pittsburgh, it should be a little more plausible with everyone in like one location, basically. So I wanted a theme song so that I could basically start the network and like get the ball rolling on these ideas that I've had for so long. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing.
I've been getting needles stuck in my butt.
Yeah. So what I did in podcast week history,
What?
why did not you warn me?
What are you attempting to communicate?
So what I watched this week
There you go.
in podcast pop culture history. I started a sentence again that I didn't have an exit strategy for. Okay, so the movie I watched is called Safety Not Guaranteed. It's a sci-fi independent sort of movie.
And April Ludgate is in it.
Yes.
Because I looked over and thought that he was watching Parks and Rec without me.
Right. Not just April Ludgate. There is Jake Johnson, who's on the show New Girl and was in Jurassic World. Karen Sony, who played I can't think of his name. Dopinder in Deadpool.
Oh, okay.
And Mark Duplass. Duplass. I don't know how to pronounce his name. He was in the only other movie I've seen him in. I've probably seen him in background work, but he was in the movie Creep, which was a cool independent horror movie. But I won't get into that for you. But
Thank you.
It was original, and this one is also along the same lines, original and kind of funny, kind of weird. So April Ludgate plays an
Aubrey
intern.
Plaza.
Yes.
To the rest of the world.
Plays an intern who works for this magazine, and one of the like junior writers stumbles upon this ad in the newspaper. Says, "Wanted, someone to go back in time with me. This is not a joke. You'll get paid after we get back. Must bring your own weapons. Safety not guaranteed. I have only done this once before." And sort of because they're in like a slump, they're like, this might be fun. It might lead to something just funny to do. Why not? So he takes two interns, Dopinder and April Ludgate, and they find his P.O. box that like you're supposed to mail shit to. And they sort of just wait for him. The guy is Mark Duplass. And the Jake Johnson, the junior writer, is kind of a douchebag. I don't really like his character. And he has a weird story that doesn't really make much sense to the whole plot. But
more on that later.
So he goes to speak to him to like start the story, get the ball rolling. And the guy is like, so why do you want to go back? And he's like, well, who wouldn't want to go back? You know, like see dinosaurs and shit and things like that. Like, and the guy just doesn't trust him. First of all, because he comes off as a douchebag.
Straight white man, am I right?
Yeah, but second of all, it's because he's not serious about it. The character whose name, I can't remember. I'm just gonna keep calling him by his real name. Kenneth. Kenneth is the character's name.
Great.
Kenneth has a reason for going back. You have to have felt pain and regret and things like that. It seems very deep and whatnot, but he's sincere. Like he's going back for a reason, not just because he can.
Okay.
And like then they decide April is gonna jump in and do this, and so she comes up to him and pretends like she knows everything about time travel, and like he says there are people following him, and she's like, we can speak somewhere more safe and secure, and like kind of plays along with him a little bit to gain his trust,
like April Ludgate would.
Yeah, it was very much like if they replaced Kenneth with Chris Pratt and like toned down his golden retriever like personality, it would be exactly that. Because to this guy, everything he's saying he believes. Like he goes online message boards and talks to like astrophysicists about string theory and shit like that, and like really believes in what he's doing. But then like when he lets her in and like starts to trust her after so many attempts to like talk and gain a sense of who she is, they do like martial arts training, and like he's very serious about how he's doing it, and like is just like rolling on the floor and like running through the woods. And then they do like a gun safety training where it's like she has two hands on the gun and like it keeps missing, and he's like, maybe you're a one-handed shot. So she has one hand on it and then starts shooting, and she makes all these shots because you need self-defense when you're going back in time, apparently.
Sure.
And then he starts like, he's like, okay, so you can hit a still target, but what happens if it's moving? What, the heat's on and you just are in the moment. You gotta fight back. And so he starts like shooting at these targets, like doing all these secret agent moves and whatnot. Like very goofy, but still very sincere. There's something, he seems like an odd guy, but a likable odd guy. And as the movie goes on, like the movie sets up at the beginning like she's very antisocial. In high school she sort of was just there. She describes herself as like the mouse in the snake cage or something like that, where like
Cute.
You drop the mouse in and the mouse is just still while all the snakes are around her, and like doesn't really participate in anything, kind of keeps to herself. And so she's never really let anyone into her life. She lost her mom when she was young and all this other shit. But she starts like being herself around this guy, and it does become sort of a love story. But, you know, she wants to go back in time to save her mom. Like that's her reason he gives, and she's never really talked about her mom to anyone else. And he tells her he wants to go back in time to save his first girlfriend, who apparently is played by Kristen Bell in the movie. Like that a drunk driver crashed into her living room and killed her, and this other stuff. So this is where I'm going to spoil the movie.
Yeah, great.
Because I need to get into like the bigger parts. So like one of them that works at the magazine tracks down like the name that he gives her of who his first girlfriend was, and turns out she's still alive, and is like an hour away from the town that they're in. And she describes him as being kind of an odd guy. She was nice and friendly to him, but they were never in a relationship. And she finally got this one boyfriend, and Kenneth actually crashed his car through her living room. So April starts like being like, is this guy out of his mind? Like what is actually going on here? And then there's this whole scene where he has to get something from this laser technology facility, medical laser technology facility in the area. So they set up this like pseudo heist with this van, and he goes in and there's like an office party going on, and he takes all these random pieces and then slowly like comes back out. So she's like, is this legal? Like all this crazy stuff is going through her head. She doesn't know what to believe based on like the story about his girlfriend, Kristen Bell, and this new like stealing laser technology and all this other shit. But then these two guys are actually following Kenneth, like he said. Like two government agents are following him, and they end up talking to him, and they think that Kenneth is a spy working for some Russian company or something, stealing, because he's been hitting places all over the US. And so like it's getting very weird and like right up my alley.
Right.
And so April confronts Kenneth about this, about his ex-girlfriend being alive and all this stuff. And he's like, oh, that's perfect. That must mean it worked. Like when we go back, like we fix the timeline, like that we succeed with our mission. And it's good that those guys think I'm a spy, because that just keeps the real mission like out of their hands and other shit like that. And there's this really weird moment where they like break into his garage, and there are all these like schematics and papers and things of shit he's been working on that like are legit blueprints and things that he's actually like that it's sort of solidifying the fact that he is, or at least thinks he's building a real time machine. And so she like chases him because there's the two government agents. Then there's like the whole team of writers that are like the interns and the junior writer. They all like run to the lake, and Kenneth is on this like boat, this homemade boat with a huge turbine engine and all this other technology on it, and he like is like, come with me, like we can still do this, but I'm not going back for her, like, because of, I mean, I'm skipping a lot of the emotional connection shit that they have, but like I'm going back for you and all this other shit. And she like believes in him, so she gets on board, and they fucking vanish like it's a real time machine. Like the way the movie goes is like, okay, in the beginning you're open to the idea that it's actually a time machine. This guy has the means to travel back in time. Like that's what kind of what you go into the movie thinking. And then as you know, character interactions unfold, you start thinking, okay, maybe this guy is a little off. Maybe it's not time travel to him. Maybe there's something else going on here. And then there's a good portion of the movie where like, this guy is nuts. She is not thinking clearly. Like, this is all just wrong. And then it fucking is like, oh no, he's right. And everything he's been saying is true. And like, sort of an inspirational moment button at the end. I don't know if you'd like it.
Okay.
It's definitely worth watching.
Okay. Was it made recently?
Yeah, it's been on my list for a while.
Like pre or post Parks and Rec?
Well, this was 2012. So Parks and Rec was in season maybe 1.
Oh, okay.
Hold on.
Not that important. I was just curious.
She kind of plays a similar character.
It sounds like it. I mean, it sort of sounds like, and this could just be because you're skipping around, but she's just kind of the love interest.
2009 Parks and Rec started.
So we're like mid Parks and Rec. Okay.
She's not the love interest. She's the main character of the movie.
Does she have like agency? Like as a feminist, would I enjoy watching her, or would I be frustrated?
It's hard to say. I mean, she does very much play the April character, but everything she says, or at least believes, is sincere in the movie. She's not really... That's a hard question for me to answer.
Yeah, I mean, we learn new feminist things every time we talk about pop culture.
I don't think it's anti-feminist.
Okay. So it's either neutral or...
Yeah.
Like, how anti-Semitic?
So, like...
Regular.
Average.
Yes!
But, like, Jake Johnson's part in the movie, he's the junior writer.
He makes banana pancakes the whole time.
And he goes to this town. Like, he sort of puts together this whole trip solely for the purpose of bumping into one of his old girlfriends. And then he, like, ends up liking her and wanting a life with her, and then she doesn't want that, and so he just leaves. Good. Yeah. And then it's a very weird, because, like, obviously April's story is the main story in this time travel thing, but Jake Johnson, I'm not really clear as to what he learns. He's so Dopinder is very focused on school, and like he's a sophomore in college, I think, doing this for extra shit, and sort of wasting his youth on this stuff. That's what Jake Johnson believes. Okay. Because when he was 21, like he was, hooking up with all kinds of girls and like living his life the way he should as
That's
a
the only
young
way to
guy.
live your life.
I'm not saying it. I'm saying this is what is in the movie through Jake Johnson's eyes.
Okay.
And so Dopinder doesn't have friends, doesn't have a relationship with anyone, is cut off from everyone because he's so focused on school. And Jake Johnson's like, that's, like, it's cool, like, whatever, but you should also open up to other people and, like, interact with other people. So when he has this moment with this girl that he used to date, that he wasted all of his youth and never, like, settled down, or I'm not even sure what he's pissed off about, but he comes back to Dopinder after that and is like, don't be like me. Like, you're 21. I would kill to be 21 again, and all this other stuff. So each one of them, I read one of the reviews, and it says, like, each one of them sort of goes on their own adventure, but obviously April's is, like, the main one, but I didn't really give a shit about any other story other than April and Kenneth.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely, I think it's worth a watch. It was either going to be that or Brigsby Bear, which Kevin Smith has talked about, but it's like this this kids show with this giant bear suit that, like, once the show ends, what's the guy to do? So he goes out and dresses like Brigsby Bear and, like, continues the story out in the real world. Another one of those independent movies, but along the same sort of indie comedy type things.
So maybe next week.
Indie comedy drama. That's what I was going to do actually for next week, but I've heard good things about both of them. Safety Not Guaranteed, I really enjoyed. There were just some weird things about it. And Mark Duplass, he's a terrific actor and, like, is very sincere in the characters he plays, but he, at least for the two movies I've seen, he's played sort of the odd guy that you're not 100% sure if you can trust him.
Great.
But, you know, for the horror movie, that kind of worked.
Okay.
So what have you been reading this week? Let's toss it over to you because...
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I am still reading The Amazing Adventures of Kavalier and Clay because it's a monster.
Yeah, it looks like a heavy read.
It is a heavy
even for
read.
you.
I am a little bit more than halfway through it. There have been a couple of times where I have had to, like, I'll be reading and Matt's next to me on his laptop and I'll be like, hey, can you look up this word for me?
Yeah, which is shocking to me.
And I mean, like, well, one of them, the author fucking made up. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, that's why I haven't heard that one before, Shakespeare.
Why are you shitting on him for making up a word?
Just, you know, he thinks he's all that. But all that in a bag of chips.
Wow.
The book is, that aside, the book is really good.
Hot diggity dope.
Exactly. I talked a little bit before about how it's encompassing sort of the beginning of the comic book era, which is fascinating as a fan of the way later iterations of that creation.
Yeah.
You know, like the two characters, one of them has a job at this newspaper and his boss basically says, you know, make me a Superman because DC is earning money hand over fist. And everybody else is like, so we need one of those.
Or honestly, they could have just waited it out.
Right.
Just we'll let a few decades go
time.
by. They'll burn themselves out.
But, and this is the second time that I've read the book, the thing that I did not remember as much from the first read is that the book also, the very strong theme throughout the book is the Jewishness of these two characters, these creators.
I don't think you've mentioned that before.
Yeah, I don't think I did. I mean, I might have casually mentioned that, I mean, they're sort of supposed to be the Marvel creators, I figured out. And, I mean, they were Jewish. I mean, they were all Jewish, everyone. Right. But Joe Kavalier escaped Prague, like, by himself. His family had, he was born across some border that, like, by a fluke made it legal for him to get a visa to leave, and those were not being given out freely during the beginning of the Holocaust. So he was able to go to his mother's family in New York. His mother, father, and younger brother stayed in Prague, not voluntarily.
Right.
And just as he left, that was sort of the beginning of the Jews being pushed into ghettos, and like the Holocaust hadn't properly started, but
Do they go into this in the book?
yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
You've never
No,
mentioned
this
this.
is like the first couple of chapters is Joe getting out of Prague, and we get the story of there's a story in Jewish folklore about a golem, which is a man made out of the
Frogs?
no made out of the clay
Thinking of
from
something. Oh, okay.
a certain riverbank. I don't know. I think it's a very Eastern European story, and the golem is a protector.
Yeah.
So when Joe gets to America and is, he hooks up with his friend Sammy Clay, who's his cousin, and Sammy is explaining the concept of superheroes. Joe's first impulse, he draws a comic book with a golem as the hero, but nobody will publish it because it's too Jewish. So he comes up with something else. But so we have Joe Kavalier, who escaped the Holocaust only just, who's worried about his family left in Europe. And then we have Sammy Clay, who is he was born Samuel Clayman, but shortens it because, Stan Lee.
Right.
Born a Brooklyn Jew. And has sort of grown up being poor. His mother is your typical Brooklyn Jewish mother, very domineering, can't cook for shit, has come up a lot, and is very pushy, but it's out of love, we're almost positive. And it's so interesting because the novel chronicles the lives of these boys from just before they intersect to form this creative partnership through the rest of their lives. And I'm about halfway, so they are well into the creation of these comic books. They create a character called the Escapist, and the first cover that Joe draws is the Escapist punching Hitler. And that was when I was like, yes, we are very much shooting for Marvel here.
Dope.
Yeah, it's just so neat. And I mean, my family is Jewish. My great-grandmother left Russia. She didn't escape the Holocaust. She left before that, during the pogroms. So my grandmother was born in America, but she was first generation. So I have, all of this background. And I mean, my grandmother was raised in Brooklyn, so like during the time period that the story is detailing. And it's just, aside from being an immaculately written book, like it's deep, it's dense, it's complicated, but it also has these two things that I can very much relate to with the comic books and the Jewishness.
Yeah.
And it's a really satisfying read, even though it is by no means a book that I am tearing through.
Right. Yeah, like normally a book that you started last week, you'd be done by now.
Right, and even a book with I think it's 630 pages or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I would generally be tearing through it pretty fast, but you have to pay attention.
Yeah.
It's a lot of unraveling.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, but you've never once mentioned the whole Jewish angle.
I think I had my grandmother read that one, and she liked it. She actually said that somebody who lives at her retirement home had the author in their Hebrew school class.
No way.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, The Amazing Adventures of Kavalier and Clay. Very amazing if you're interested in either the early foundation of comic books or Judaism.
It's got them both.
It's got everything. So yeah, that's what I've been reading. I don't know what I'm going to read next. Something easier.
Yeah. I still have to finish the book I'm reading.
You'll get there.
It's just, it started picking up, and I've talked about how much I have trouble with reading.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
it's okay.
Whatever.
Yeah. So, the other things. Yeah. We mentioned that our next TV watching project was going to be Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Because they're both so expansive.
Yeah, we would do, I mean, in different ways.
Yeah.
Because Doctor Who has been around for
okay.
so long. Excuse me, I just comparing
Buffy's a cult
7
classic.
seasons of Buffy versus
We're not going to the
50
beginning
years
of Doctor Who.
No.
We're going to
gonna
9.
2005, which is fine. I might throw on like the TV movie with 8 because it's a 2-hour affair and it's one Doctor. Like, he didn't get his own season. But that's after we get through what we're getting.
So we've finished season 1 of Buffy, and we are very close to the end of series 1 of the reboot of Doctor Who.
Yeah, and we've sort of been skipping around because your tolerance for the Doctor, and probably just this version of the Doctor, I would say, is slow, and you have some problems with it.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that the recent couple of episodes that we've watched have been more interesting, because the first couple of episodes, even though, like, we've talked about this, I have a decent amount of exposure to Doctor Who because of Tumblr, and because it is, I mean, it's a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
Like, it's very prevalent in nerd circles, which I frequent. So, like, even with an understanding of the character and who he is, also, I've been fucking dating you for a year and a half. I've heard a lot about Doctor Who.
Not as much as you could have.
But the first couple of episodes, for me, it was very difficult to figure out why I'm supposed to care, which sounds mean, but, like, it's this man who, at this point, has not really been humanized in any way, who runs toward danger and is laughing about it the whole time. And that just doesn't resonate for me in any way.
Okay, I wouldn't say he's laughing the whole time.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah, he's intrigued by the danger and by something he might not understand.
Okay, put your boner away for a second.
Excuse you. Listen. Yes, he does.
I'm gonna go on to say what I like about
Fine then, because you're doing a terrible job.
I was explaining the beginning. The first episode that I found really compelling from a character standpoint was the one where the Dalek shows up.
Yes.
Because the main thing that intrigued me about the idea of Doctor Who is that it's all connected to this gigantic, sprawling story. And the Dalek is the first time I felt a connection to that. To, we're not just establishing exposition and how the rules of the world work. We are indicating that something much bigger has happened. And we're starting to see, like, the Doctor confronting the Dalek. I mean, that was fucking cool, being like, we need to kill this thing.
Yeah.
And Rose being like, you know what, actually we don't. And seeing the struggle and the understanding and ultimately the decision not to. Like,
yeah. And I
was cool.
I think sort of the difference as opposed to watching an American television show. So, like, the British do short series, but they seem long and drawn out for some reason. Whereas American series seasons are fast-paced, like, instant gratification sort of things, and they can end with cliffhangers, but, like, they'll wrap it up in the next episode and then put you on another cliffhanger. Like, American television was more so made for binge watching, whereas Doctor Who and the British televisions were...
They play in the long game.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I mean, it was this way back in the day, and it's pretty similar to how it is now, but definitely with the reboot in 2005. I mean, it's a series, so it's a serial version of it. Like, each episode ends with, like, a lead into the next episode, as if this is one long continuous story. Gotcha. And, like, in the very first early episodes of Doctor Who, the episode would end sort of when they were starting to introduce the next episode. And so, like, one season, or, like, a set of 5 episodes would be one story. And then it would do another story of 5 episodes, and so on. So it's a different sort of way to watch television. And with the reboot, I think they learned really quickly that, times have changed.
Yeah, that's not really going to work.
And it's not going to work the same way. They do attempt it in certain cases, and it does work. I mean, they'll do 2-parter episodes and whatnot, and when one episode ends, it'll lead into the next episode. But the way they're telling it starts to evolve, and you can kind of see it happen, because you do sort of, instead of being like, I mean, they really took their time with the first few episodes of this season to establish all the shit that they need to.
Yeah, because we talked about that as well, because the show does have this long history.
Yeah.
So there were people coming into the reboot who had watched all of the previous episodes, and then there were people who were coming into it for the first time. So you have to find that balance between, reinventing the wheel and
And I mean, because right off the bat, you're playing with the 9th Doctor. Like,
this isn't the first
version of this Doctor.
Yeah,
and like
nodding to the continuation.
Yeah, and my dad saw like all of Doctor Who on PBS, I think it was. Like, that's where he got a lot of his British shows from when he was growing up. And then he showed me Doctor Who. Like, an episode of David Tennant was just on, and I was in the room, and like I just fell in love with it. But he had all this background for like Doctor Who and had watched it over the years. So I was coming into it with new eyes and started with 2005, but my dad seems to enjoy what they've been doing now and like keeps up with it. So like, it is a strange and probably hasn't been done a lot before.
Yeah.
I mean, even with shows that like will end and then they try to reboot it or bring it back later on, they're usually only a few years difference. Like, between 2005 and the TV movie with the 8th Doctor, I think it was made in like 97.
Okay.
But then before that, the last series was like, maybe right before the 90s started. So like, it started in 63 and then has just kept going, and then would stop, and then kept going, and then would stop, until finally they were like, no, it's coming back. Like, this is the time to bring it back.
That's so interesting, because a lot of, like, there are a million different iterations of Sherlock Holmes, but none of them are even trying to say we're continuing the story. But Doctor Who, like, the formula was, I mean, it was created to be an ongoing forever show, because you can change out your star every few years.
That was the exact reason the regeneration was created.
I mean, it's perfect. Like, what a brilliant idea. Because, and I mean, the fact that the Doctor is not gendered, does not have a specific human race.
Right.
Like, it's very cool, because it leaves the door open for Jodie Whittaker, which, like, I'm so excited. I mean, I'm pretty excited for David Tennant, but I am most excited for there to be a female Doctor.
I'm as excited, I think, for...
Definitely more than me,
well,
because
as
you've been
a
a fan
Doctor
of the
Who
show.
fan, but as like,
a feminist, I'm over the moon.
Right. And I don't... Obviously, there's a whole subsection of human beings that just suck. Saying, like, they PC'd Doctor Who and social justice warriors are taking Doctor Who, and that's why I won't be watching. Hashtag the tech guy. Like, that's a literal thing.
Hashtag fuck
article
off.
I saw. And it's like, with a show that's been running this long, and also a character that is an alien from a different planet, like, that there have been time ladies in the past. Like, why not?
Right, and it's going to add so much to the narrative. I mean, they're going to have so much to play with the whole companion thing.
Right.
And I mean, it's just, like, what incredible storytelling. And it also shows that they're listening to their audience, listening to the time that they live in. I mean, how many shows that, people like have actually done something like that? And I mean, hopefully they do it well.
Yeah. I mean, as long as the last season with Peter Capaldi, I think, was just as amazing as the rest of them. Like, and I really loved Peter Capaldi's version of the Doctor. And that's the other thing too, is it's still, at the core, it's supposed to be the same character. Mm-hmm. But each Doctor has their own personality. They just sort of retain all of the memories and beliefs that the previous Doctor had, but then they also can learn and do new things. And like, so, and in recent episodes, like recent incarnations of the Doctor, there's been a reason that these Doctors have sort of become who they are. Like, so Peter Capaldi was once on an episode of Doctor Who as a character in Pompeii.
That's right. I heard about that.
So, spoilers, because we're going to spoil this episode for you.
Lots of things have been spoiled
I
for
know.
me.
So, this is with David Tennant and Donna. They go to Pompeii on Volcano Day, which is when it's about to blow up.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And Peter Capaldi is like the head of that household that they like stumble into. And shit's happening where he's like, I can't change the events. Like, this is a fixed point in time and all this other shit. And Donna's like, just why not? Like, there's so many, like, we're seeing children and all this other stuff. Like, people are going to die and we can't even just tell them, like, just go, evacuate. Go. Like, it's going to happen. Like, we can do something. And he's like, no. And then at the end of the episode, he's like, fuck it. I'm a Time Lord. I'm the last of my kind. I'm going to fucking save at least one family. And he goes in, reaches out his hand, and Peter Capaldi and his family are there, and he pulls them into the TARDIS and sets them up with a new life, like, a little after that all happened. So that moment that they sort of explain later when Peter Capaldi becomes the Doctor, because he's like, this face, I recognize this face, and I don't know why. What am I trying to tell myself? And he's like, he has to remember why he does what he does, like, that human beings, because there's a whole storyline with the Third Doctor where basically he's banished to Earth and doesn't really travel the universe with his TARDIS. He sort of is stuck on the planet and has to live on the planet, and so he's sort of an honorary human being. So he has this connection with the human race and decides like that he can't get away from, like, he loves humans and wants to save them. And so when Peter Capaldi's version of the Doctor, like, chooses that face, it's to remind him of humanity and, like, all this other shit. Yeah, so if they... my point to all of that was that if they make it a reason why it's a woman now, I mean, there's a very touching and crucial storyline with Missy, who is the Master, in Peter Capaldi's final season. So I don't know if they give it a reason, fine. They don't really have to.
Yeah, I think it'd be great if they don't.
Yeah, I mean, but either way, I think like, it could be.
This now.
Yeah, like, I don't know. There are so many ways it can go.
Yeah. And
I'm just excited to see how it works out, because there are a few other characters that we've had in the series that, like, their stories aren't tied up, so they could come back, and, like, it would be really cool to see how the Doctor as a woman would interact with previous characters from the show. So I'm excited
looking forward to it. I also want to talk about Buffy.
Yeah, I know. We have to give equal...
We're not going to, because you could talk for the rest of your life about Doctor Who.
But Buffy is a great show, and here's why.
What are your impressions of season 1 of Buffy?
Okay, so I haven't seen all of Buffy. I've seen sporadic episodes.
Shockingly, I have seen all of Buffy twice.
So that's, you're in, like, your show that we're watching.
Right.
I really dig it. It's definitely a 90s feel to it, and that's obviously very much Joss Whedon. Mm-hmm. Monster of the Week, which I love, is just a concept for many shows. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned this once before, but, like, Buffy, like, she's this badass slayer that, like, I mean, she's still a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah, she's like, very female and very 16.
And, like, some of the shit she says, like, she might make a crack about, like, what she's wearing, or, like, you know, not wanting to do homework. And, like, she's still a kid in high school, but she just has this huge responsibility to, like, be the vampire slayer. Yeah. And I think that's a really cool idea. Because, like, it happens with shit now, like, typically the chosen one. they lose all that sense of like childhood,
Right?
Because they know like this is a responsibility I have. I can't be a fucking kid anymore. I have to be an adult and like solve all my problems, save the world, and all this other shit. But like,
and Buffy's like, if the world ends, beat me.
yeah,
Yes, Buffy, we will.
yeah. It's hilarious. I really dig that part, and I don't really care for Xander.
No.
Who's the male companion.
Xander's a fuckboy. Like,
he kind of is.
The
like,
first time watching it, you don't realize it.
Yeah, and I'm sure if I watched it like as it was airing, I would probably be into him. Like,
yeah, because he's the nerdy guy who's into Buffy, and she rejects him, and he does not handle it gracefully.
No.
And he also, like, he's just so fucking entitled. Like, it's sort of like if you had watched it when you were younger. I watched it when I was younger for the first time, and I didn't love him, but
I would probably not identify with him like fully, but it would be like, I'm a dude that likes a girl that is out of my league and doesn't like me back, but like, it sucks.
And then there's Willow,
Willow is an amazing gem that
I would die for Willow.
Yeah.
Frequently on like character rankings of Buffy characters, Willow ranks higher than Buffy. Like,
that's
frequently.
Fair. She's just so pure, and I don't really know her whole story. Some things have been spoiled for me. Some things I have watched. But yeah, she's just very pure, like
Willow's a bit of a roller coaster, but I never stop loving her.
No. And Giles is great, the librarian, because who else are you gonna have like teach Buffy how to be a vampire slayer? Like, Buffy has been doing this for a while now, but he's sort of like the only. So like, apart from the two people in her life that have like accidentally found out she was the Slayer,
Willow and Xander.
Yeah, Giles was like waiting for her.
Well,
Like,
Giles is her watcher.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, so like for every Slayer, there's also a watcher.
Yeah, I know.
I
was just saying, like, he knows he has an equal responsibility.
Yeah, he's the only one that was sort of supposed to be in this with her.
Right. That's all I was saying.
Oh, I said it better.
Well, why did not you warn me?
And it's also the Giles and Buffy relationship. I just made this connection. It's kind of reminiscent of Holt and Peralta in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, because sort of in the sense that they start to rub off on each other.
Okay, yeah.
And you even sort of start seeing that towards the end of season 1, but they are very much influences on each other throughout the series. And I don't want to spoil anything. The first season, super short, very, very contained, because nobody really thought that this was going to get picked up. It was written like as a filler, like a mid-season gap for another show that was on hiatus.
I mean, if the last episode was about prom, like the prom was going on at the time, they spent more time with the prom, they could have ended the series there. I'm glad they didn't, but like, if they had done that, it could have been a one season, like, a hidden gem that
like Firefly.
Yeah. But no, I'm glad it keeps going. The only other, not problem I have, it's just like, I don't care that much about Angel.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Angel is around for
he's
like,
on
Angel
a
gets
lot
his own
of the
fucking spin-off, which is
for the Buffy DVDs.
Yeah, Angel's exhausting.
Yeah.
Wait until Spike shows up, because I'm very excited.
Him and Oz.
Yeah, and Oz.
Yeah.
While we're talking about Buffy, I have been a huge Joss Whedon fan for years. And I sort of keep mentioning that I'm gonna deal with those feelings.
We might as well do it now.
So Joss Whedon has gotten a lot of negative attention within the last couple of years. I think specifically since Age of Ultron. And I mean, feminist-wise, there were some shitty things that happened in Age of Ultron, primarily the Hulk Black Widow thing. But I have a hard time believing that Disney didn't strong-arm Joss Whedon into making that the way it was. I don't know, like, the problem that many people reasonably have with Joss Whedon is that he was so celebrated in the 90s for writing shows like Buffy and Firefly. And I mean, even Dollhouse to a certain extent, although nobody's seen Dollhouse except us. But during the 90s, these were revolutionary feminist shows. The problem is that feminism has progressed and Joss Whedon has not. And we sort of have to see these shows. I hate being like, you know, for the times that they're in. I know, but there is something to be said for a 16-year-old girl who is saving the world amazingly. You know, you have to view the show through the lens of its time. And there was also recently some negative stuff about Joss Whedon cheating on his wife. And his wife, said some very inflammatory things in an interview with like some magazine. And Joss Whedon did not directly respond, just said that, you know, he wasn't going to get into it. There were inaccuracies in what she said, but he wasn't going to fight back with that. So what it sounds like is he was a shitty husband, which sucks. I mean, you hate to see your heroes fall. You know, this is the guy who, when asked why he writes strong female characters, responded, "Because you're still asking me that." Yeah. Which is such a good quote. Like, yeah, I mean, Joss Whedon has done a lot of important work. It sucks that now people cringe when you mention him. And there are some cringy moments.
How widely, like, your window into the populace's opinion would have to be Tumblr, I would imagine. Yeah. That's a pretty good sample of people that, like, are in the circle of nerddom and...
Right, people that would have grown up with Buffy, that would have been Joss Whedon fans initially.
So do you think it's across the board that people find... I mean, obviously there are people that don't, but...
It seems to be very widespread.
Okay.
I can't say across the board. I haven't done, like, sociological studies.
No.
I talked to my friend Mallory, who's also a huge Joss Whedon fan. And, I mean, her take was that people are overreacting to him handling a personal situation in kind of a shitty way. Mm-hmm. And her strong opinion was also that, you know, people put him up on a pedestal. Yeah. And, you know, Buffy, the show isn't perfect. There are some cringy feminist moments in it. We were talking about Xander.
Yeah.
The angel thing is not perfect. Yeah, I mean, there are bad moments for social justice in Buffy, but there was still a lot of good work done.
Yeah, and that shouldn't be ignored.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, we've talked about this a lot when it comes to, you know, heroes falling.
Yeah.
That, I mean, these things exist in the past, and you can't change the impact that they had on your life.
Yeah.
Anything that Joss Whedon makes moving forward, I think I would be a little bit more hesitant of.
Well, he fucking bailed. I don't know if he bailed entirely or if there was just a disagreement, but
yeah, Batgirl. Yeah.
That's fucking rude.
Yeah.
I mean, but then again, if you got the woman who did Wonder Woman.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently there was something circulating around a leaked script that he wrote for Wonder Woman that was just toxically bad.
Yeah.
I didn't read it.
I read it. I don't, but I don't know the legitimacy of it.
Right, that's the other thing, is if it's bouncing around Tumblr, like...
I think I saw somebody retweeted it on Twitter.
Still, like,
but
where did it come from?
I don't know.
Right.
Where did it go? Where did it come from? God,
stop it.
Sweden. All right.
Yeah, so we're watching Buffy. We're enjoying Buffy.
Yeah.
And that's...
You seem to be okay with Doctor Who at this moment.
I am. I'm ready to keep watching.
Yeah.
I'm not, you know, and what do Doctor Who fans call themselves? Oh, fuck. Yeah, I'm not a Whovian yet.
Buffyans. No. Is there a name for Buffy fans?
Probably, but
Slayers?
if I couldn't come up with Whovian.
Slayers with a Z?
Yes, it is now.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see where Doctor Who takes you.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't expect you to be as into it as I am, but I was never going into it thinking that.
Right.
I just think there are a lot of good moments in the show that you might appreciate. Buffy, though, I'm bound to start liking it even more.
I do think that you are going to love Buffy.
Especially with, like, some of the storylines I know that happen.
I mean, it's got, like, the low-budget 90s horror vibe that you enjoy.
It has it in the very first episode and doesn't really stray from that, and I love it.
Yeah, it's great. You are going to love Buffy. Yeah. I'm going to like parts of Doctor Who.
Yeah, and that's all we can hope for.
Did we want to talk about A Wrinkle in Time? Or...
We can do a real quick thing on it.
Yeah, I mean, so we saw the movie. It was fine.
Underwhelming.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so I mean, I'd never read the book. You haven't.
Me neither.
Either,
or if I did, I don't remember
which
it,
is
which
weird.
Is telling.
You would think it would be right up my alley. It's very much like the father, who is played by Chris Pine, him and his wife, who unfortunately I don't know her name.
She looks like the woman who plays Angelica Schuyler. I kept thinking that it was her.
Could. They are like, not astrophysicists, maybe?
Something like that.
They're super smart scientists.
Right. An interracial super smart scientist couple.
Yeah, and they've been working on these equations for some time, and Chris Pine's character, like, figures out that we can travel the universe with just our minds. We don't need rockets or these huge machines. We just can do it like with our own minds, and stumbles upon this certain frequency that, like, if you hit it, you can what do they call it? Tesser. You can tesser to another. Yeah, tesser to another part of the universe. So he disappears.
Shocking.
Like, accidentally finds it, disappears, and is lost for 4 years.
Right.
And then his little girl and adoptive brother.
Right.
Adoptive? I don't know. They seem.
Yeah, they adopted him.
Okay.
Charles Wallace is adopted, and Meg is their biological child.
Yeah. Who she's been struggling with the disappearance of her father. And
they were super close. Super toit.
And basically 3 imaginary friends. I'm not 100% sure where they come from. One played by Oprah Winfrey is like the center of the universe, or like connected with the universe in some way.
Like that, yeah.
One played by Mindy Kaling.
Yeah.
I actually don't know what her function is, but she's evolved past human speech.
So she only speaks in, like, quotes.
Quotes, yeah.
And one of them is, "Tomorrow there'll be more of us. Miranda, American."
Yeah.
That's how she attributes her quotes.
Yeah, she cites them.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then the other one is Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah, who is, again, I'm not really sure of her function.
Right.
She turns into a giant lettuce bird, which is what I kept thinking through the movie.
No, I was thinking of, like, isn't there, like, some bacteria that moves like that? Like, undulating?
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe, but she had a lot of, like, lettuce in her face.
There was a lot of lettuce in her face.
Anyways, so they travel.
Costumes and makeup were dope.
All the components of the movie were dope. The story didn't make a whole lot of sense.
And because neither of us have read the book, the problem that I am having is, was the adaptation weak, or was the story in the book not one that stands up?
Yeah.
And, it was just difficult to track. Like, I wanted to like the movie because, I mean, for the same reasons that I went in wanting to like Black Panther, because it was very social justice forward, a very diverse cast. A Black woman directed it.
Yeah. Ava DuVernay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but that's fine.
Right. Yeah, like, it fell kind of flat for me.
And, like, with a movie that's predicated on this idea that we can travel the universe with, you know, the right frequency, or, like, just using our minds, basically. Love seems to be what cracks the frequency. They don't spend a lot of time in cool parts of the universe.
Right.
They spend one short scene I mean, it's longer of the few scenes that are in there. On this very colorful planet they meet one other species, like alien flower thing.
Right.
And then they discover the darkness called the It that's sort of taking over and is the reason for all of the darkness in people, like anger and jealousy and resentment and self-doubt and things like that.
Body issues, apparently.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is one that's frequently seen with adaptations, I think. Like, so they didn't spend enough time exploring this, like, universe travel thing, but they also did not spend enough time with this idea that love is so powerful.
Yeah,
like
or that the villain is sort of the composite opposite
right.
of love.
And that's why I'm wondering if maybe they tried to do what book movies tried to do so often, is tell the whole story, when really you can't, because it's too much.
Right.
You have to cut. You have to figure out what your main through line is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I also wonder if children would get more out of the movie because they're not analyzing it like we are.
That, like, yeah, the main character is I'm not sure how old she is.
She's like 11 or 12, I think.
Yeah, she's in middle school.
Yeah.
And then there's, her friend,
this
Calvin.
random boy who has no function. You could remove, like, there's the sexy lamp trope where, like, if you could replace a female character with a sexy lamp and tell the same story, that's seen a lot. I'm gonna remove the word sexy because Calvin is also in middle school, but you could replace Calvin with a lamp. Right.
Like, he doesn't really serve a function. We didn't even really know he was gone when he was gone.
Right.
Like,
why is he
just
here?
Disappeared at one point. We're like, what happened to him? Right. The little kid is probably the strongest. I mean, the girl was strong, I guess.
Yeah, they all seem to, like, the little boy at least seemed to lack the charisma needed to carry as much story weight. Yeah, the way the story unfolds, he couldn't really handle it. He couldn't really carry it. And I wonder, see, now I'm going to have to go back and read the book because, the idea that love can help you travel the world, and at the end of it, this girl learn to love herself and see the wonderful things in her. Like, it sounds like the kind of story, the kind of book that I would love to read to a future daughter. Yeah. But,
like, it definitely has a good message. Definitely looks cool in certain places. But there was something missing that just puts it over the edge. Yeah, like, I thought it was cool, but it wasn't, like, I kept thinking, because it's a Disney movie that deals a lot with the universe and shit, I kept thinking it was going to hit me like Tomorrowland did, or like inspire me in some way. But and maybe that was part of the problem, because Tomorrowland really hits me right in the feels.
He cries every time.
Yeah. I'm crying right now.
Cutie.
But yeah, it just didn't do it for me. But again, yeah, maybe a kid would enjoy it more than we would.
Right. I'm glad that it got made. Yeah. Glad, I don't regret putting our money towards seeing it, because, it's funding more diverse, different kinds of movies being made, which is definitely a world that I want to live in. So
yeah, I will say though that the actress Rowan Blanchard, who plays the school bully, Corey and Topanga would not have raised that girl that way. She is the main character on Girl Meets World.
Gotcha. And she's a little bitch.
She is awful.
Yeah.
And, like,
I hate her.
Your dad didn't love you, and he left
That's
you,
why
and
he
won't
left.
come back. And,
maybe you should get lost too.
Yeah, like, what an asshole.
And then they point to, like, oh, she doesn't like the way she looks. I'm like,
okay,
great, that does not justify you being a
that's
bitch.
That's not what they're saying with that scene. They're not giving it a reason.
They're showing
it.
I understand
infecting other people's lives.
Whatever. I have no patience for bullies.
I get it. Neither do I. I'm just saying, like, fucking, we all got struggle. You don't have to be a dick. They're not mutually exclusive.
It's okay to not be a dick, even though you have struggles. Moral of the story.
There you go. That's what this Disney movie taught us.
Is that what we should end on this week?
Yes, I think that's a perfect place to end.
It's beautiful.
Yes, so...
I'm happy to have done this with you.
Me too. I had more energy than I thought.
I'm ready to go to sleep now.
That's fine. It's only 9:23.
I'm exhausted.
I know.
Okay.
So hopefully I'll put the theme song on the front of this episode. There won't be an out theme song, probably. Probably. No promises.
Maybe I'll come up with the out theme song.
That'd be awesome.
I won't.
You got my hopes up.
I do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So.
Bye.
Okay. You have to
I don't
sign
have to
off.
say
Yes, you do. You owe it to your fans.
Bye, Mrs. Danko.
Wow. I said fans. The guys talking about shit podcast? Wow. So much dead air. You couldn't even say goodbye to them.
Bye, guys. Peace out.
Scout. Once the show ends, please don't shed those tears. We'll come back again, so have no fear. Oh, we told you that it just might end up this way. What's the show called again? You cannot be saying, why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you warn me now? Why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you warn me now?